What's that to me? What did you say right there at the back? This is completely unexpected, absolutely unbelievable. Why, of course it is. Who would have thought that the company, Abyss known for making people piss in bottles so they don't get fired because of a loss of productivity. By the way, this begs the question. Do you not lose productivity while you piss in a bottle? Is the productivity then the same while you're not doing it? I'm a bit confused on that one. But in any case, surprise, surprise, the company that is best known for doing that does not respect your right to own stuff. I'm personally completely shocked.
Well, it seems at least one thing hasn't went great for Big Jeffrey. Amazon has just announced that to better serve their players, that's a quote, on their Luna game streaming service, they are now going to turn off the ability to buy or stream your own games. And for those left with unplayable libraries, there would be no refunds. Doesn't really sound great, does it? You see, 4 years ago,
Sounds like it doesn't make sense. To better support our customers, we're gonna take away the thing that you paid for. Sounds great, in fact. I love the modern age.
Amazon wanted to offer you the future for gaming. A way to bypass the need for a console, but without hurting game ownership. Ownership in air quotes, because licenses. But hell, they even got the likes of GOG on board, letting people access PC gaming without ever needing a PC. Sounds fairly nifty, but now they've shown us the cost. And that is that when you don't own your own hardware, you are just waiting for the people in control to hit the kill switch and to leave you with a library of games that
Now, I'm not saying we have already seen this through Stadia and other things like that, but yeah, we already knew what the outcome of this is. Everyone who bought it effectively just paid money to get completely wrecked at the end. That does require some special level of being on the wrong side of the IQ average distribution scale.
you cannot play. And this is not just a little story about how, oh, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. This is actually something far worse, that you can actually own your games, air quotes, own, and just be left with no way to play them. So let's get stuck in. Now, if your response to this video was, wait, what? Amazon has a game streaming service? Yeah, actually. It started in 2020, where Luna launched in beta as a streaming service.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon also tried to compete with Steam, and the only time that we knew about this was when Amazon Game Studios shut down because they failed. Yeah, until that point, no one knew that that's a thing. Everyone thought that Amazon just has New World and that's pretty much it. No, turns out they had a bunch of useless garbage other than New World.
Subscription service. Basically, Amazon Prime Video, but for a library of video games and with a similar channel-based model. So you would pay for a channel, say the Ubisoft channel, just like you'd buy your Paramount Plus. It even had its own.
Okay, saying that you're gonna pay for anything Ubisoft already sounds like, I don't know, heresy. And it requires a fire to be purged, okay? Pay... Ubisoft would not even agree to something like that, how humiliating it is. To know that no one is gonna be willing to pay for their garbage. My god.
Controller, you could play through any screen, it was on tablets, it was on smart TVs, and like most Amazon things, it was fine. It worked. It was relatively cheap, and over the next 5 years, it came to many, many different countries. But in 2022, they took away the beta. The service launched fully, and with that, they did something new. So, aping one of their competitors, GeForce Now, they would let you play your own video games through.
Well, GeForce doesn't care about that much because the people behind GeForce now care about AI more than anything, so not a big deal even. Don't you just love how everything's kind of just crumbling around us? You know, this thing that used to be a thing is now bad. This thing that no one liked now is getting pushed. Man, it's a never-ending story.
Through their service if you had the right accounts be linked up. But of course, Amazon's strengths don't stop there. They are good at stores, they know about leverage, they know about scale, so they went further. And they used that scale to cut deals and to build custom integrations. And that meant that on Luna, you could play your existing Ubisoft game, or you could actually buy new games from Luna itself. So you could get ownership of games, asterisk, licensed to play
Ownership,
a
yeah.
game that is independent of needing expensive hardware. And by 2020,
Anything that's not a physical copy is not ownership of a game. And by the way, I'm gonna even go further than this because we kind of need to start talking about it. Anything that is not a physical copy and can be played offline is not yours. Because right before physical copies became unpopular, and online completely took over, there was this neat little thing that games that were sold as physical goods but still required an online thing could ban your CD. Yes, they could ban your key. They could still prevent you from using it, even if you owned it as a physical thing. And that was games that not only had an online component, but single player games that just required you connection to the internet to play them, which is the best part.
24, the ownership angle had actually gotten stronger, like actually stronger, because it was in the form of a GOG store right from the Luna service that is still DRM free. You could buy Cyberpunk, own Cyberpunk, and play Cyberpunk even if your PC could not meet the recommended specs. And of course, because it's on GOG, no DRM bullshit. Like, that's actually a case where you basically do own the game. And when we think about the strategic optics here, it was them partnering with the ownership and preservation focused gaming storefront. It felt like an actual statement, and in many ways, it would solve the temporary nature of subscription services by selling customers on the idea of building up a permanent game library. But as it turns out, the idea was only as
The concept of GOG is nice, and I would love it to be popular and to actually use it, but the reality is, it's just not convenient enough for me to switch from Steam, where I have a bunch of games, to, that I don't actually own them. We own nothing on Steam. It's all just licenses. To something like GOG, where we would technically own it forever, which would be great, technically. But that's not happening because it's just not good enough currently.
permanent as the interests of Amazon's executives, which, as we're about to find out, have been rather fleeting. So this got caught up in the big macro story, which is Amazon getting out of games. They've been getting out of games for the last 6 months, and the first thing they got out of was development, where in October, one of their biggest successes, New World, saw most of its staff laid off.
Wait, what do you mean successes? New World? I think they did a decent amount of sales, but New World collapsed. I mean, we're talking about a game where you literally could post JPEGs in the chat because Amazon, they literally hired Pirate Software to be a developer for them for a time. That's right, our boy, Pirate Blizzard 7 Software, was not only a second-generation Blizzard Nepo baby, but he was also a first-generation Amazon Nepo somehow, probably. So there you go. That probably shows you all the quality that we're talking about. And then people understood, wait a minute, we can insert code into New World through the fucking in-game chat. Which was also a problem, needless to say. New World was such an absolute mess. I think it did sell a decent amount of copies. It probably sold close, if not more than 4 million copies. Maybe it has sold 5 million copies at this point. It's hard to say. I don't remember following it, and these are estimates based on the fact that I think they peaked at something like 270 players, or maybe it was more. I don't remember. But it did sell a lot of copies, but it collapsed so absolutely fast. In a month, it was completely dead, effectively. Not truly dead, but nothing they did was good. it was just not a good enough game. It was fun to mine in it. It was fun to chop wood in it. But other than that, there was not a lot of appeal.
And a new MMO that was in development had its development ended. They sold off an in-development Dieselpunk MOBA to Ubisoft, they pulled out of publishing a driving game from ex-Forza leadership, but it still seemed like Luna was safe. And that's because Twitch Prime and Prime Gaming were rebranded under Luna. But it really was just a rebranding, it did not change that much. Players could still get games and codes for GOG or the Epic Games Store. Your Amazon Prime subscription would now give you access to Luna streaming by default, which basically meant it looked like Amazon was putting all of their eggs in the Luna basket and having that basket be tied to Amazon Prime. But it now turns out we really overestimated how big.
Actually, it's the other way around. It has been forever. Amazon is always using the Amazon Prime subscription as a way to push people into something. And I think that's very interesting because it just doesn't fucking work now, does it? They're giving free Twitch subs to people who have Amazon Prime. That's not working out. Twitch is losing money. Now, granted, the point of Twitch is it loses money, but it's still the household staple name of a thing, so that is power in of itself. They have tried to use the Amazon Prime subscriptions as a gateway to get people into so many things at this point, and all of that has colossally failed.
That basket was. Now, this was first flagged up through emails that were sent to subscribers. And what has happened is that Amazon has announced that as of April 10th, they've come up with, quote, a better way to serve their players. So obviously, this is a good news story, right? Well, their better way to serve players is having Luna stop offering access to third-party subscriptions, individual purchases, or stores to buy them from. That means the GOG store, the Ubisoft store, all those things would be discontinued from Luna, and the streaming library of rotating AAA and indie games, plus cloud games like the Gen AI-powered Snoop Dogg courtroom game. Good news is, that would stay, so you can still have your Snoop Slop. Oh, so very generous of them, but I haven't actually got to the real bad news yet, and that is that by June 10th, you're not going to be able to play the games you previously purchased. That's quite the problem. Basically, you'll no longer be able to stream games from those accounts even if you bought the games through Luna. Even your save data on the platform only gets to exist for 90 days after June 10th. And while you can download it, Amazon makes no guarantees about your save data working. What they can guarantee, though, is that you'll get no refunds for any of it. Why are there no refunds? Well,
based.
Because in paper, these games are still playable. You can still run your Ubisoft or GOG games through another platform. You know, the other platform that you probably don't have because that's why you're playing on Luna in the first place. So that's pretty bad, but hey, it's a great thing that PC gaming is so very financially accessible right now. Yeah, this one's quite bad. Here's a quote from Amazon. Until now, playing on the big screen usually means expensive consoles, costly graphics cards, and they go on in that quote. Now, that is what Jeff Gaddis, the GM of Amazon Luna, was claiming whenever they announced their October rebrand. Basically, that Luna was built to solve that problem of needing a big expensive GPU. And look, in many ways, that's actually how Luna worked. The principle that getting a PC or a console at the right specs would cost serious money, especially if you wanted to play the newest games, was an issue, and Luna would mean that you didn't have to do that. It was a decent way to play games.
By the way, this is just another low-key example how fucking dead consoles are in the water. Because notice that this is an alternative to the not only price of PCs, but consoles. Because everyone knows consoles are way too expensive for how little they provide nowadays. So, this is an alternative even to the cheap solution. Yeah, that's nice to hear, ain't it?
As long as your internet held up. So if that's what they were saying a handful of months ago, what's different now? Amazon made these changes knowing that the games market was kind of shifting. PC and console hardware is getting more expensive, especially the kind needed to run the biggest games. And those games themselves are getting more expensive, sometimes literally, and sometimes...
We could actually just, ignore all this if developers optimize their games. I mean, Arc Raiders is runnable almost on a potato at this point. And it's an Unreal Engine 5 game. Yes, I know. Unbelievable. And it is, again, it is literally playable on a potato. But none of these devs care about that, probably because they don't have enough skill or talent to make it work on potatoes. Or maybe they just don't like potatoes, who knows? When I get home, I'm not thinking about how to peel a potato. I'm thinking about to get grab a drink, maybe just slightly intimidate my wife, all of the normal stuff.
Well, because everything else is getting more expensive, so people have got less disposable money these days. And that's what this new wave of Luna was targeting, right? It was targeting consoles, it was sort of trying to take over the living room TV and fold everything into a general subscription with Amazon Prime. And looking at the data, it's kind of clear why Amazon doubled down on Luna rather than other game development things. And that's because over 2025, Circana's data
That's because Amazon is a bunch of idiots with too much money on their hands and they're throwing it now into things that don't make sense. Wait, I'm not joking on that even.
suggests that subscription spending was up by 20%. And that trend is continuing into 2026. Basically, what we've seen from the various industry stats people is the general game spending is...
Wait. Let's look at that again. Every video game spending was flat when compared to blah 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 non-mobile subscription Okay, so it's subscription spending as a generalized thing. This does not mean that there was growth in the industry. This means, hey, Netflix is more expensive again, and that's somehow a game thing, by the way. Which, by the way, could actually be true, considering how these people lie with statistics non-stop.
Game spending, especially for younger Americans, was down, and that's even before the economic chaos that's went on as of late. So,
yep, I mean, of course, it's of course, video game spending is down for young Americans. Everyone's buying a hammer to bone smash and look smacks better because that's the stuff that matters in life in reality. Okay, if you're not look smashing or hag maxing, or whatever type of maxing, especially gested maxing, then you're not doing a good job, are you?
In a time where players want value for their money, Amazon doubles down on subscriptions. Seems to make a lot of sense. But that doesn't yet tell the full story, because it's actually when we take a look at Circana's predictions for 2026 that all of this comes together. And remember, Circana are, in the industry, actually trusted as a source. So whenever we're talking about Circana numbers...
I don't fucking even believe this, by the way. Circana is supposed to be trusted because every company gives them their numbers? Why wouldn't these companies lie? I mean, listen, Do you think all of these failing companies are going to give their actual numbers to this third-party place so it can be compared to their competitors? Hell no!
That is stuff that actual decision makers in these companies will actually be looking at. Here's a quote. If hardware becomes cost prohibitive, expect increased play on existing devices, growth in PC and mobile gaming, and accelerated adoption of cloud gaming. So what we're seeing then is Amazon are betting on the future of cloud.
Accelerated adoption of cloud gaming, sure, yes, of course. That's why? That sounds so stupid.
Cloud gaming, and everything that they've done in the last 6 months tells you that they think that bet is a sure thing. Here's where the story's going to feel a bit weird for, I'd say, most people watching this video. So, cloud gaming, as a market in its own right, has had many wobbles. I remember Gaikai or whatever it was called back in the day. Most recently, though, there's the fall of Google Stadia in 2022, which truly does feel a vast period of time in the past. History's moving too quickly. Anyway, at that time, Google had tried to build a big platform, just kind of like the console makers did, and Google had big, high-profile executives attached to it. They had first-party studios as the bedrock of their plan. Just think of all the acquisitions Google made. Obviously, it didn't work, and that's partially for Google's own internal chaos, but also because most of the US and large chunks of the rest of the world aren't really set up for a future where streaming beats just running a game on your own hardware. Now, of course, there's another service in existence, GeForce Now, that gives you access to much of your own library, but you have to build that library yourself off-platform. But unfortunately for it, it's relatively messy to make work.
Does anyone use GeForce? Isn't that just a massive meme?
For non-technical users. Look, I know you might think, oh come on, that is so simple, it will take no time. Well, that's because you know what to do. And often with non-technical users, it's not the literal steps that are the problem, it's that they can't really conceptualize what they've actually got to do to make this thing that they don't really understand work. But do you know what that kind of user does understand? Something like, say, Netflix Game Controller app. It actually works so well that GameFile says it was the top downloaded app during the US during the Easter holiday, and it's consistently in the top 25 list. So actually, even though that's not something I've ever even thought about doing myself, maybe that's the same for you, evidently a lot of people are actually playing video games on their TVs right now, and they're doing it through nothing more than their Netflix subscription. And that's because that subscription has given them an easy entry point. And what we see now is that Amazon wants to follow suit. So what they're focusing on is not getting you or I to move our gaming habit over to Luna. They're instead focusing their cloud gaming efforts on their
Netflix is probably 5 days away from announcing a price hike for that, like always.
existing Amazon Prime subscribers, basically giving them more value and more things, and targeting their business towards the kind of people that would not know what a GOG is. Or maybe wouldn't even know what an Ubisoft is. That's the point. Luna offers a subscription service bundled in with an existing product that many people have. Prime. The gaming content will be entry level enough that all you'll need is just a mobile phone and an app to play. That's the core of it, just like Netflix. Now, they're not dropping more prestigious games entirely. They're still happy to put those things up in a rotating library for access when, say, an audience wants something that's not, I don't know, like a Jackbox style party game. And they're still happy to use all this as a selling point for Twitch subscriptions. But the concerns about ownership and the things that matter to people who would consider themselves to be gaming enthusiasts, those things don't matter to Amazon anymore. And that's why some people who moved into Luna are feeling extremely burned right now. So then, the people running Luna in 2024 believed so much that gamers would care about ownership of their games and game streaming that they decided to partner with GOG, a storefront that's entirely geared towards enthusiasts. As far as partners go, few would be better placed to convince hardcore gamers that Luna actually cared about the same things that they did. Though obviously, it's not just Luna, it's Amazon Luna, and I think Amazon being there, well, just means that most people would have tuned out to that message. Now, I'm sure those execs had good enough intentions, but as of now, those good intentions won't matter. The promises made to players about their libraries won't matter either.
And probably none of this can be saved, except when they get sued for something, probably in Europe. Now, we're gonna see if that happens, because this is typically the next step how this works. Oh. You're canceling this thing? Oh, but you can use it on another platform. Yeah, that's not good enough here. I wonder if Europe is gonna sue Amazon. I mean, Europe loves suing Amazon. It is what it is. In any case, that was Billiard Games 10 out of 10. Remember, you will own nothing and probably still not be happy because let's be real. Bye.